Hey, good evening. This is Matt Mosley with Big Pig Energy on the Arkansas Sports Network. Joining us tonight, we got the regular crew. Blake's here, Greg. We got Coach Kelly and Danny. But the main person that I want to make sure we introduce tonight is Mr. Jim Harris. Mr. Jim is the former Football Writers Association, U.S. Basketball Writers Association of America. I think you worked with the Arkansas Democrat at one point, and then also
The Gazette,
or the Gazette.
Pine Bluff Commercials, where I started. I worked for, I started up Arkansas Sports 360 back in 2007. The website that had a good 5-year life, I think it was. Now I'm with the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, but I'm still keeping my hand in it, Matt. A little bit on the Hog Zone every Saturday night, 10:30.
Well, we appreciate you being here with us. We're going to dive right into the game. Last week's game, Arkansas went down to Davis Wade Stadium in Mississippi State in Starkville. Unfortunately, we were without our starting quarterback. KJ was out. They never really said one way or the other if it was concussion related. We can only assume and guess that it was a head injury. So he was out Saturday. Coach Pittman went ahead and started walk-on Cade Fortin against the Bulldogs. It was his 5th career start and his first as a Razorback. Unfortunately, that didn't work out the way I think the coach thought it was going to. Malik Hornsby would start to come in periodically in the first half. Hornsby ended up running for 114 through his first TD as a Razorback, and also got his longest completion as a Hog on Saturday. His 52-yard run in the, I think it was the second quarter, was the longest by a Hog quarterback since Matt Jones' 72-yard run against Ole Miss in 2004. Another highlight from the game, Bumper Pool got his 20th career double-digit tackling game, finished a total of 14. He also broke the record set by Tony Bua in 2003 of 408 tackles. So we want to make sure we give Bumper his props. Mississippi State, unfortunately, they were just too much. I mean, they struck early and often Saturday. Had a TD run by Johnson, 2 TD passes by Will Rogers in the first and second quarter. The Hogs finally got on the board with a 51-yard field goal by Cam Little. Again, I want to note that matched Cam's career long with about 3:07 to go in the first half. Hogs ended up getting the ball back. Rocket Sanders closed the half out with a 3-yard run. Ending the half, Mississippi State 21, Arkansas 10. State came out in the second half firing again, ultimately scoring on a 33-yard pass from Rogers to Ducking. Brought the score to 27-10. The Hogs answered with a 54-yard bomb from Malik Hornsby to Bryce Stevens for 6 and a Cam Little extra point. Brought the Hogs back within 10, but the Bulldogs just were too much late in the game. Scoring on a 30-yard run in the third and a 2-yard run in the fourth, bringing the final score to 40-17. The one thing that I've noticed, guys, and I want to hear your take on this, Arkansas was 8-16 on third down Saturday. For the season, they're 41 out of 93 at 44%. I went back and looked the last couple of years in the Kendall Briles era. We're 36% on third down in 21. We're 33% in 20. Of course, that's a COVID season. But overall, as it stands, with 2.5 years into his time as OC, we're sitting right at 38% on third down. Coach Jim, I mean, you guys have been around. You've watched a lot of football in the state. You've seen a lot of different coaches and offensive coordinators. What can Kendall Briles do to get this offense to stay ahead of the chains? Because it seems like every time we get to a point, things are rolling and clicking. We end up 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, penalties get us into 3rd and 12, 3rd and 14. What can we do, or what can we expect to see to see this change going forward?
Number one, I'd like to see us. I mean, everybody knows I'm going to say this, but it's just more efficient. I mean, if you look across college and the NFL football and the analytics world, and just reality is throwing the ball is more efficient than running the ball. We've got to throw the ball a little more on first down. You've got to make more yards per play. If you look at our yards per play, we make more yards throwing the ball than we do running the ball. And you've got to do some of that on first down. It'll help you when you want to run the ball on first down other times. But right now, I think we're a run-heavy team on first down. And when we don't throw the ball, well, everyone's like, we got to run the ball. In reality, that doesn't work over the extended period of time. You've got to get ahead of the chains by throwing the ball. And then, if you have a 2nd and long, quit running the ball on 2nd and long. You just can't do that. I mean, in theory, it makes sense to throw the ball because we're completing over 50% of our passes. So on 2nd and 3rd down, throw the football. You're going to complete one of the two, and you got a better chance of making the yards you need then. And then 3rd down, we need better designed plays. We're doing plays where our guys got to beat their guy. Well, what if our guy's not better than their guy? We don't have Treylon Burks. You've got to design plays better, and it can be done. And last year, I did a study on play design. I took the top 7 offenses in the NFL, and some of those guys are going, my guy's going to beat your guy. And if you got Tyreek Hill, you can do that. But the Cincinnati Bengals last year, even though they had Jamar Chase, I looked at them. They had the best play design. They were against zone coverages. They had a guy working, holding the closest, running around and holding the closest defenders, and they high load one guy, a linebacker, inside out, and one guy. We got to do better play design. So those are the things I would do on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down to be better than we are now.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I was just going to say, definitely concur to that. You've been there. You've had to do it yourself, Coach. The thing I find real interesting about this team is that they seem to move the ball better when they're almost in like 2-minute offense. I'll bet this team has been more efficient, going fast and going, especially just before the half. I mean, they scored before the half the other day. They only scored twice, or 2 touchdowns. One of them was with about a 1.5-minute drive late in the first half. They've done this all year. They seem, if they get deliberate, they don't seem to function. Just pretty simple. It's hard to really take last week, though, and beat it up too much without KJ playing. I think 8 of 16 with the outfit they had out there the other day looks statistically pretty good. You start delving a little further and you see where they, were so poor in the red zone. They were 1 of 3, but they were also poor from the other stuff, plus 50, as it were. Just not really making. And again, I just think we can spend a lot of time tonight on this one subject, but I think when you go with a quarterback who hasn't played or practiced much at quarterback for 8 weeks, and you have to go to him because the guy you decided looked good in practice but couldn't function when the lights were on. When you go to that guy, and I'm talking about Hornsby, you're asking a lot for quarterback to be super efficient, except on the broken play. He made plays. He turned broken plays into big plays, but I think it was asking a lot for him to succeed in the base offense. So I don't know. We'll probably continue on this a little bit, but I just wanted to throw that out.
Before we get off of this, what do y'all think about, and I've kind of thought this for the last couple of years, honestly, even whenever he was hired, that is there any part of this that's attributed to the fact that it might just be trying to put a square peg in a round hole with Kendall Briles' offense versus the way that Sam Pittman wants the game to flow? Because I agree with you. I think that we are more efficient whenever we're having to operate in a more fast-paced style, and it doesn't seem to be. I mean, it kind of did last year. You started to see them be able to really execute whenever the game was slowed down. But that, to me, has seemed to be kind of an issue. And I'm wondering if that's more just systemic to that relationship and what Kendall Briles ultimately really wants to do with his offense.
I don't know how much Sam's really holding him back. I really don't. There may be some tendency for Sam every once in a while to say, "Hey, let's establish the ground game on this drive," and maybe he is. I don't know. I think the real problem, and Jim said, "Well, we're 8 of 16. That's pretty good." Well, the reason, and then you pointed out, Jim, that we weren't as good. We were terrible in the red zone this week, and we were terrible inside the 50. Here's why: we were behind the vast majority of the game by a lot. They started playing softer and letting us make third downs and doing the bend but don't break, but we're not going to let you throw it over our head and get a quick one like we did against Bama a couple times. And that's why it's easier to make third downs in those instances. So if you want to look and go, well, we were good at third down, well, but we were bad. If you ever look and see a team that did good on third downs, but bad in the red zone, you can look at the score and go, there were times they were playing softer. And there were times Mississippi State was playing softer, and that showed up in that third down. On the Malik Hornsby deal, people can say whatever they want. I don't know how everybody can say, I love Sam Pittman, I love Sam Pittman, I love Sam Pittman, and then criticize his choice of quarterbacks that he's watching every day in practice, and we never get to see him practice. We don't see the guy in the film room. We don't see him in the meeting room. So I trust that the guy is starting who he thinks is the best player for the team at that time. I mean, maybe Malik Hornsby is not a practice player, but that's all they have to evaluate him at quarterback on. So I don't fault him for starting the guy. Did the other guy look better at times? Yeah. He missed a wide open guy in the end zone. You can't, what you have to have as a quarterback, and obviously neither one of those guys showed it, is when you do throw the ball, they've got to be consistently hitting their target. Not, 50% of the time it's perfect and right to him. 50% of the time it went 8 feet over his head, because you don't know when that's going to be. We don't want him to hit him on first down and then miss him on third. We'd like it to be the other way around, but you don't get to pick that. So Hornsby didn't show enough consistency for me to go, they even made a mistake. But I know this for sure. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying Sam Pittman's the greatest coach in the world or Kendall Briles is, but I do trust one thing. They had no reason to put the other kid in and start him other than watching what he's got based off practice. They want to keep their $5 million a year job and their $1.25 million a year job. All they've got to go for is what they're seeing.
Right.
So I'm not saying everybody's wrong on who's the better quarterback. I'm just saying we're kind of a little bit wrong by saying the other kid should have started when we have no idea what they've seen.
No, and I don't want to say that because what I was told was clear head and shoulders in practice. Cade Fortin looked better. I have no doubt that he probably looked better. I mean, that he did look better, not probably. That to the coaches, they were like, yeah, he looked really good. But then you get out there on the field against a real football team.
Mm-hmm.
So Arkansas's scout team is not a real football team. I'm just kidding.
Let's put it this way. I'll bet you Alabama's scout team is better than Arkansas.
Wow.
Well, Jim, Alabama's scout team could compete against a lot of Group of 5 schools. Let's just put it out there. I mean,
let's just hope Irish can compete against a Group of 5 school this week.
I dove a little deeper into the numbers. I mean, Arkansas is 24th in the FBS in yards per game at 462 yards. Ultimately, we're 72nd in points per game, averaging 29.5. 49 spots between your average yards per game and your points per game. It's the biggest gap in college football on offense. So, and we're 10th in the SEC in points scored. I mean, we're near the bottom of the SEC in points scored, but we're near the top in total yardage. So there's something's wrong somewhere. Now, my eyes, I see one thing, but and I've been drugged on Twitter the last 2 weeks straight because every time I say something about our offensive coordinator, people just freak out. But on this show and for what we do, we try to be fair. As bad as I'm, feel about the offense, I feel 10 times worse about what the defense is doing right now. But I mean, what's the difference? What am I missing, Coach? I mean, it because when your yards are up here and your scoring's down here. I mean, we put it out to the hog Twitter today. We had, I think, 100 people voted. We put it out. It was play calling, penalties, execution, or is it just the Jimmies and Joes? The fan base seems to think it's execution of the players, not executing the plays that are designed. And then the next thing, of course, everybody play calling. I mean, automatically you're going to go to play calls. But I mean, what can you do with 6 games? I mean, we're going into BYU Saturday in a hostile environment. If you think BYU's not hostile, you've never been out in Utah. Then people are nuts about their football.
They don't have much else out there.
They ain't got nothing else to do except football and make babies out in Utah. So you got a hostile environment you're going into. I don't know if it's going to be as hostile as say Alabama or Tennessee or even Baton Rouge on Saturday night, but it's going to be a hostile environment. They're doing a whiteout, it's a big deal. What can you do to bring that number to where I'm not saying level? Coach, man, 49 spots between what your average yards and your scoring offense. That's a big gap.
Well, number one, you know, you're right. When you're putting up that many yards, I always said, and this was that you know, in the high school game, 100 yards is equivalent to 100 yards is equivalent to 10 points. So if we made 600 yards, we should score 60 points. And it's not that much farther off if you look in the college game for most teams. Okay. So one, there's something called points per yard. Mm-hmm. And a lot of teams are just more efficient in those points per yard. But all that means is that they're the same efficient in the red zone as they are not in the red zone. And obviously Arkansas is not nearly as efficient out of the red zone. So number one thing is we've got to work on the red zone. I mean, we need whatever our time that we're spending in practice. If it were me, I would spend a whole heck of a lot more time now in the red zone. You always have to fix what you're not good at. Now, something else is going to break a little bit. Well, that's going on, but that's okay because we know we've got to fix this, and maybe that won't break quick enough to hurt us, but we know you got to have points. We know we got to fix that. Number two is, you know, the fan poll, you know, number one, they said execution. Here's, and you know, and I didn't, you know, we didn't win games and I was in college last year, but I'll be the first one to tell you, that's my fault. I didn't do a good job. My job is to take whatever we have and find whatever plan meets that and gives our kids the best chance to execute. So when you say execution, that is play calling because you have to call plays we can execute. Mm-hmm. That's your job, is to call the plays. Now, some people go, well, then call what we do well. That's not the best way either. That's the second best way. The first best way is to see what they're doing on defense against every formation and every play at every down and distance from the hash, from the yard line, and call to the weakness of the defense, not the strength of the offense. Because if you call it the strength of the offense, you're going to get the first quarter of Alabama. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to understand the weakness of the defense is, and get your team ready where they can attack weaknesses of the defense. And then you'll be better out of the red zone, in the red zone, and everything else.
Why aren't we doing that, Coach?
Huh?
Why aren't we doing that?
Honestly, it's not. I don't know what they're doing in practice. So I can't say they're not working on the red zone for an hour a day or whatever. But usually, I've been to a bazillion NFL and college practices, and I'll go back and I like to look and see what did they do bad the last 2 weeks, and are they addressing it in practice? I'm going to say 80% of the teams don't address their weaknesses a lot. They just practice the same way they practice every week of the year because that's what they do. And, you know, because they think we need to practice it all the same as the game of football. I don't think that. I think, you know, if your freaking pipes are leaking in your house, I'm not going to go vacuum the rug. I'm going to go fix the pipes, you know? And just to give you an analogy, but football coaches, a lot of the time they don't, because they're afraid if they do spend too much time there, something else is going to break open, and maybe over time we'll just figure that out. You know, it'll just happen for us. And it just doesn't happen. We're still dealing with human beings that screw up. And usually if you're screwing up a certain way, it takes something to jerk you back into line where you're not screwing up. And that's whatever it is in life, let alone just football. So people just don't change. They're resistant to change. Football coaches are probably the world's worst. I mean, basketball, baseball, hockey were the first ones to use analytics to make decisions. Football's just now doing it. And last night, 2 hours after the game's over with, the Monday Night Football, all they're talking about is how dumb it was to use analytics. I mean, we're just Croatian cavemen. I'm not Croatian. We're cavemen when it comes to Cro-Magnon. That's what I was looking at. We're Cro-Magnon cavemen when it comes to change and resisting change and all that. And my gosh, we're going to trot out to practice on Tuesday, and we're going to do Tuesday's practice. But we need to be going, we suck at the red zone. We got to fix this because we can make yards. We don't need to work on the offense in the middle of the field right now. We're good at that. So, but I think that's why that they're probably in the situation they're in.
Well, before we move on to the defensive side of the ball, just want to note we are 116th in the red zone nationally. Now, folks are going to look at that and maybe go pull that number up and go, well, we're hitting 73%. Well, 116th is not very good.
Is that 73% of the time we're scoring in the red zone?
Yes.
Yeah, you get inside the 20, it should not be less than 3 out of 4 that you're scoring.
Yeah.
It should not be that.
I mean, they should get field goals if they don't, but they've been fumbling and causing 13-point game swings,
Yep.
Change it.
Go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, so I just know that last year, anytime that I saw Malik come out onto the field, I felt a little bit of panic because I didn't think that he was a player that we could really trust to get the job done. So knowing that going into this game and knowing we weren't going to have KJ was a little bit worrisome for me, just because I think it was for everybody. I mean, everybody was going back and forth on Twitter about, who was going to start, saying their piece about whether it needed to be Malik or Fortin. But what I will say is I feel like he has improved quite a bit from last year.
Mhm.
Still not as much as what I want to see out of him as our, backup. But at the same time, it was to a point that I was just excited that he was the one coming back onto the field just because he was actually
Right.
moving the ball and, making the plays. And I just feel like it was kind of night and day compared to last year. It wasn't him out there kind of just scrambling. He seemed like he was kind of more focused and more comfortable in what he was doing this year. So that was nice to see.
I think he's going to get even better now that he's only going to be taking quarterback reps instead of like reps at receiver and things like that too.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, he had about 5% of the playbook last year. I'm not sure what he had this week, but it certainly wasn't much. And I mean, some of the plays they made were him, extending a play and then a guy getting open deep behind him. I mean, it was, I don't know how much of a playbook he's got right now.
Well, I was looking at it, yesterday, Jim, and the one thing that I would say, if I was going to say anything about Malik, he's got to work on his intermediate passing. I mean, that's the one thing I saw from KJ from last year to this year. KJ's got a lot better at that short ball. He can throw the deep ball, and so can Malik. Malik, I think, actually may have a stronger arm than KJ on the deep ball, more accurate arm. But it's those intermediate passes, those ones between the sticks and 5-7 yards, because he threw one Saturday and hit him right in the chest plate, and it just ricocheted off because I get it. I mean, I played football. I mean, the adrenaline's pumping and you want to get the ball out of your hand because you don't want to get your head knocked off. So moving on to defense a little bit, missed tackles were up again Saturday. They had 14 for the game. Had one player missed 5. At this point in the season, we're 6 games, fixing to play our 7th. What the heck can they do? I mean, we've talked about this every single solitary week. We've had Cincinnati was 13 missed. South Carolina was 13. Missouri State was 21. The Aggies was 12. Bama, we cleaned it up. We only missed 8 tackles. Of course, 3 of those were huge. And in Mississippi State, we revert back because we're at 14 tackles. Now, granted, we played in an 8 DB set. It's a lot more open field stuff. Mississippi State was dinking and dunking us in the middle all day. But I mean, at this point in the season, is this just the way it's going to be the rest of the year? We're just going to have double-digit missed tackles.
By the way, can I give some credit for saying that they're going to run the ball more when we show a 3-man front because Leach is running the ball the more this year,
Absolutely,
and they're going to
Coach.
dump it out to the running backs all the time, which they did effectively. And, I mean, Leach isn't dumb. He wasn't going to come in there and they're going to drop 8. He's going to be like, I'm going to do the same dumb stuff I did last year. That didn't work. We're not going to do. He's not going to do that. He's too smart. You and I talked about it. He's way too smart for that.
Yeah, I fully expected that before the season started. I thought he had this game sort of circled that he had to take care of Arkansas. And I didn't think we'd win this game in my preseason picks with everybody healthy. So it doesn't surprise me that they lost shorthanded and in all the spots they were shorthanded in. I knew he'd run the football this year, and he's got a running back to do it. 2 years ago, they had a running back to do it. The guy got knocked out in the first quarter, Kylan Hill. And, it was – he didn't have a quarterback like he's got now either. The guy threw it 4 times right to Arkansas without it being a tough catch. Saturday, four passes that were off Arkansas's hands, but I'm not sure two of those were going to be pretty incredible catches on Arkansas's part if they had brought them in.
Well, Jim, you and I would have been the only two that picked Mississippi State out of this crew.
I picked them.
Hey, I picked him. I picked
Oh,
Mississippi
that's
State. What are you
right.
talking about?
You're killing me,
hey,
coach.
Hey. I just
Come on
forgot.
now.
Y'all, I was just thinking y'all always pick Arkansas.
Well, I
Danny, you
generally
didn't
do.
No,
pick-
that that
The last 2
industry
weeks, the last 2 weeks has pretty much shut that down for me. I'm like, I did
Yeah,
not
had
feel
that
good
Razorback
about it.
spirit.
This game was in a bad spot anyway. This game was set up. I mean, when you're following two emotional games, which I thought they were
Yeah.
going to have anyway with A&M and Alabama, and then you're going to Starkville. It's never been
Yeah.
easy there.
We've always, Jim, and I've been in Alabama since '92. I've been to, I don't know how many games in Starkville. Every time we go down there, some weird crap happens to us. Every time. It's the same thing at Auburn. I mean, we
Yeah.
go to Auburn, something funky, weird, always. It's like we got a bad juju on us or
Yeah,
something.
Arkansas's pulled some games out down there, and I mean, it doesn't seem like they ever get, bad calls or anything, but there has
Yeah.
been weird days. I mean,
Yeah.
Sylvester Croom beat Bobby Petrino down there one year that
Mhm.
I don't think anybody saw coming.
I
That's
know
a fact.
everyone has the next man up mentality, but like 25% of our starters were injured going into that game. So
Football's a physical game. Starters are going to be injured.
Yeah.
Suck it the freak up and play and get your guys better, develop them better in practice. I just the quarterback thing, that's a legit thing because you can't develop but one quarterback. I mean, that's just the way it goes. But the rest of it, I mean, you can sit there and use excuses all year. And you know what you're going to do next year when somebody gets hurt? Use that as an excuse. You're going to lose the next 5 games because you're blaming it on excuses of losing players. I mean, everybody loses players and everybody has to find a way to fight through it. The quarterback was a good thing, but we weren't going to win that game the way we played if KJ was playing or if we had Tom Brady playing. It wasn't going to happen.
Well,
I also, I know that last week because I watched the episode and I saw that Teeter had said that he can't bet against Arkansas. He can't pick against Arkansas, and that's the boat I'm in. I feel guilty every time I do it. So you guys can clown me for it all you want to. I'm gonna keep doing it.
I'm going to call you for it.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
sunshine, little Miss Sunshine over there.
One of these days, Danny, you'll wake
be
up
right
and
again,
realize. Yeah,
I can-
it's-
Actually, one of
Okay.
these days you'll be right.
No, but in the back, one of these. But in the back of my mind, I know the games that we can and we can't win.
Yeah.
Like I know which ones that I'd be better off picking the other team, but I can't do it.
Well, I'm just going to call you. We're going to change your name from Danny to Sunshine Pumper, and everything will be okay.
I'm probably due for
Uh,
another name change, so that's fine.
So I was looking at this, and I want to throw this out because I want our fans or people who watch the show to hear this. Arkansas played a lot of zone Saturday, and it absolutely killed them. I was really surprised. I knew Barry was going to do it. He's done it 3 years in a row. To Coach's point, who the hell thought Mike Leach wasn't going to figure that out? I mean, the dude's one of the best offensive coordinators in the country, in my estimation.
You think they're going
Um,
to stop them playing man to man?
No, they weren't. They weren't. The yards after catch killed the Hogs Saturday. They had 211 yards after catch. Now,
Yeah.
if you're making the tackles, running that zone doesn't hurt you as bad. Bumper Pool got absolutely picked on Saturday. 11 targets, 10 catches against him for 127 yards. They came out after the game, said the kid's been playing with, I think he's got like a hip pointer or something going on, some sort of hip injury. At the end of the day,
He's been
You've
hurt
got-
every year, though. He's
He-
had to play through something every year.
every year,
I mean,
and it's the way he
they
plays
all do.
football too. Yeah,
I mean,
you're going to
I'm-
play hurt.
I know Coach Kelly can tell you this, and the guys he's had up there, and the former Razorbacks I know, they all will tell you, man, it was week to week once it got started. You're hurt.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean, I thought that Sam was the other day when he said that, I felt like he was trying to take some of the pressure and the blame off because he even admitted he's seen what people have said on Twitter about Bumper missing tackles, and he didn't say
Mhm.
Twitter by name, but he knows what people are saying, and it's just like, hey, he's playing hurt. Yeah, they all are in
Mhm.
some form or fashion. I don't think he's out there with a broken hand like people said he might be, or if it's a broken hand, I know guys who played with broken hands. So I mean,
Didn't Grant Morgan last year?
Yeah,
I
didn't
mean,
he?
it may not have been a
Yeah.
broken hand, but I mean, he could barely move. I think it was his right arm.
His was I think it was a sprained AC joint in his shoulder. I mean, he played with basically a knee brace on his right arm. I mean, it was a walking wounded with linebackers a lot of times, especially in SEC. It's a
Yeah.
walking wounded with those
Yeah,
guys.
but if you, I mean, honestly, and I think you're right, Jim. I think he's trying to take some pressure off Bumper or whatever. But in reality, if any of the linebackers had a bad game on any team in the SEC, you could come right after and go, his legs hurt right now, or his arms hurt.
Yeah.
He's got a rib bruise. I mean, like you say, they've all got something. It is a brutal game. It is a Roman
Mhm.
Coliseum in updated days where we're all standing around watching them beat on each other. I mean, it's just the way it is. And you've either got that guy's either good enough to play at a high enough level to play him, or you have to put the backup in. So I don't like, I mean, I like that he's taking up for his guys. What I don't like is if he's bad enough to take up for, then maybe you should have played the guy behind him.
Mhm.
Because if that guy's healthy, then he's got to be close to as good as a guy that's at 70%. If
Well,
not, you're not doing a great job developing and recruiting.
That's my point, and that's what I keep shouting from the rooftops. Is I'm concerned about our development of our players from the drops from the ones to the twos. The gap is huge. I mean, the ability of them to be able to come out and see what's going on. There's a few twos that are okay. There's some of them boys look completely lost, especially in secondary. When they come out there, it's like they don't know where they're going, or they're reading stuff wrong, and it's just you can tell there's just a flow in the game's not there. But the other thing that I've noticed myself, just because I watched the defensive side of the ball closer, it seems like we've got guys, especially in the defensive backfield. There's, I think, 4 freshmen and a sophomore that are on the roster that are listed as cornerbacks. We ain't using them. We got all these injuries in secondary, and these guys aren't getting any PT at all. But we're going to pull two very talented freshman receivers and throw them onto the other side of the ball and try to make corners out of them. And I'm sitting there going, the hell?
I don't have a problem with them doing that this year.
I was scratching my head a little bit,
I don't have a problem with them doing that. Those are 2 of the best players they probably signed last year. They need athletes
Yep.
on that side. And frankly, I know the kid doesn't want to go over to that side, but I'd sure be begging AJ Green to at least spend the second half of the season over there at cornerback. He was outstanding in high school. Didn't want to play cornerback, wanted to be a running back. Who promised him to be a running back? Arkansas. So he signed with Arkansas. He could be suffering over at Oklahoma, getting beat 49-0 by Texas. But he really would help this team. Is he going to help the team more with 2 carries and a muffed kickoff? Or is he going to help you more with 45 snaps at the corner opposite McLaughlin?
Well, I mean, where's Chase Lowry been? I mean, all I heard about Chase coming out of Texas was 4-star athlete, had a bunch of offers. He ain't seen the field in 2 years. I mean, I've seen tape of him head to head with Evan Stewart in high school, and he absolutely shut Evan Stewart down.
I don't know. If he could play, I think he'd be out there. Just like Coach said,
But
That's
I
my-
think that's what Matt's saying though. When you get them in,
yeah.
they're not ready to play.
Oh, yeah,
they're
they're
not
not
getting any better.
Yeah.
They're not getting any better while they're
Wow.
there.
What-
That's
Well,
my point about the development side, Coach. Is it doesn't
Yeah.
seem like they're taking that next step. So either we're either not grading guys correctly. Now, granted, that 2020 class is weird because none of those guys came on campus. They all did everything via Zoom. Some of that's a wash, and I get that. It's kind of hit or miss, but it just seems like there's no progression going on with some of these younger cats to see them getting better every week. It just seems like everything's stagnant.
Look at all the
Hey, Matt, what do you-
changes at on the coaching side.
Yeah.
You basically kind of ran off the D-back coach last year. He goes to Ole Miss, and
Mhm.
you've changed out the defensive line coach 3 years in a row.
Mhm.
So you talk about development. I don't think Barry Odom can develop them all by himself. And
But they've got to. I mean, you have to. It depends on what you're looking at. If you're looking at the here and now, then you give the ones every single rep in practice. What I did was I sacrificed individual time to rep the twos. because you know you're going to need some of them and you don't know which one. You're going to need them because of injuries or because your kid just didn't play well that year and you got to move somebody up, like in our case right now. But you got to spend time giving those guys time in practice, even though they're not your ones. Coaches don't like to do it, but you get late in the season, you'll wish you would have done it like we wish we would have now and find out who is that guy we're going to stick in there. But again, coaches don't like to do that. But that's what player development is. It doesn't take long. Give them 10 live minutes of practice a day, just 10. They spend 10 minutes out there doing dumb stuff every day. You see, if you walked out there at certain times, you'd be like, what the freak are they doing out there? So, it's about being a little more efficient with practices and that kind of stuff. On the injury front, I think this is interesting. And I've been guilty of both sides of this, truly, in my coaching career. Right now, Tuesday and Wednesday, they're going a ton of ones versus ones hard because Sam believes in the physicality of it.
Mhm.
But we're getting guys beat up, not in games. We're getting guys beat up in practices from going hard and heavy. So at some point you got to decide, is Tuesday enough? And we go shells and Wednesday. But right now we're doing both pretty hard from my understanding. And that, that in itself is, besides you're not fully physically there, when you're a little bit injured, and let's say you're on the offensive line or you're at linebacker or whatever, when a play lines up, here's what you have to do. And as humans, we can only remember 6 things at a time. You got to know what down it is. You got to know what distance it is. You got to know what formation we're in, regardless. Now you have to look, if you're an offensive lineman, and say, okay, what technique is that guy in? Is he a shade outside me? Or is he a head up? Is he a shade inside me? Because it changes your blocking scheme. And then he's got to think, okay, now where's the running back going to bounce this to based off of that leverage? Because that changes too. And then you got to think, and then all of a sudden the quarterback's changing the protection or the blocking scheme. So now you've identified what you have to do, and freak, he changed it 5 seconds later. Now you got to go through it all again in your head. And you're having to do that now while you're hurting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just harder. So there's a happy medium. And I don't know what this is for the Razorback team. But if we're going to say, well, so-and-so's beat up and so-and-so's beat up and so-and-so's beat up, maybe we don't need to hammer each other on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And let them play a little lighter, let them get their legs under them, not as much contact. Then that Wednesday becomes more of a healing day than a setback day. And maybe you are a little healthier at the end. I mean, I know this, if you lose 3 games, change your practices a little bit.
Mhm.
And because if you keep doing the same thing over and over and doing it the same way, what you going to get? You get the same
Well,
thing.
it's the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
And that, before we
go
move
ahead,
on,
Blake.
so from a development standpoint, and I've been thinking about this a lot. It seems like whenever you have a rebuilding team and a rebuilding coach and a rebuilding setup, you get into this mindset of loyalty of the people that brought you there, and giving them all of the attention. And to me, it seems like we're still in that mindset of loyalty and not just put the best freaking player on the field. It doesn't matter if they're 1, 2, or 3, put the best person out there on the field. And no matter how long they've been here, no matter how much they've given the program, like, it seems like we're still in that mindset of, and I think that benefited us last year because you had those leaders on defense, you had Grant Morgan on the field, you had that, and that made sense. This year, it doesn't. I don't know if that's just an oversimplified take or.
No, I mean, you're. I don't think you're far off. I mean, I said this the other day after the Mississippi State game. People were obviously inflamed and upset, and there's a couple of teams that folks can't stand to lose to, and unfortunately, Mississippi State's one of them. We don't like losing to the state very much as a fan base in anything. But one thing that I took home from a business standpoint. I related what Sam's done the last 3 years to a startup of a new company, because you get to a certain point with the crew that you got in the startup, you kind of become flatlined a little bit, and to take that next level step of growth, you've got to step back and evaluate the talent that you've got on board at the time, and you might have to make some changes here or there, and it may not be easy changes, whether it's coaching or if it's players or whatever the situation is. It may be people in the equipment staff, who knows? but to go to the next level, and I believe Arkansas is capable of getting to whatever level they decide they want to get to. I mean, as a fan, I want them to get to the same level that Georgia and Alabama are at. Now, that's a far way off where we're at right now, even last year. But I think you have to look at it year by year at the end of the year. And I know that they do. The coaches have evaluations that they do with the head coach and with the athletic director and the athletic department. And they look at performance and statistics and everything else. So I feel confident that's going to happen. Now, whether or not there's any changes made, I don't know. But I can tell you this, our fan base, as hungry as they are for a winner, especially when you've got other programs in the university that are doing so well, it's going to get a little hot next year if things keep going the way they're kind of heading off right now. Now, we're going into week 6 or week 7. We're fixing to go out to play BYU out in Provo. That's what we'll get to in a minute. But got a bye week coming up, and to Coach's point, that bye week's huge because it's going to give these guys a time to get their legs back under them, get some rest, kind of decompress from football a little bit. I know last year we hit the bye week. Traylon Burks, that sucker shagged off of the woods, went and killed a big old buck or whatever it was. So it's that downtime of not having to think about football for 7 days or 6 days or however long their break is that they give them away from the as far as coming for treatment and stuff. I mean, they're still going to practice, but not like they would for game week. Just giving those guys that time to get their legs back under them, kind of go, we're 7 games in. We got the rest of the schedule ahead of us. I'm going to move on right quick. Danny, you got your Twitter hot takes this week. I know they're probably going to be great. Looking forward to hearing what some folks had to say this week.
Yeah, I tried to keep it not as repetitive. A lot of times I get people saying the same things over and over again, and it's usually stuff that we've been seeing for 4 days in a row. But I think I've got 4 for today. First one was from Hogs for Life 2. Said, with KJ playing, it'll be a shootout. If he doesn't, we lose by 2 scores at least. John JD_Hogzilla said, I think we'll win, but we'll still give up over 500 yards on offense. I don't know if our defensive problems are fixable with our personnel that we have available. Aiden said, Rocket Sanders, Green, and DJ combined for over 300 rushing yards, and we lose by 10 still. So that one was. He's been on one the last few days. If anybody follows him. And then, yeah, negative Nancy. Just kidding. But then Jake, the Flying Hog OG, said they can't stop our run, line up, and run it down their throats. Also, we get 2 big picks, 34-17 Hogs.
I'd take it.
I'll be honest, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be this week.
No,
I expected some 4-letter words and all kinds of colorful stuff.
When you lose like 2,000 followers, you lose a lot of the negative people that go along with it. So it is what it is.
All right, we're going to move on to Blake's Razorback Sports Report. Blake, what's been going on the Hill the last week?
Yeah, so we've had a pretty exciting little bit. Volleyball got pushed around a little bit. They lost a series against Kentucky, lost both games, went to 5. Weren't able to close that out. They're going to be at home Friday and Saturday against Tennessee. We've got some track and field stuff going on, cross country, I believe, down at Oklahoma State. One of the biggest shout outs, though, number 9 Razorback Soccer get their 5th straight shutout of an opponent this season. That's kind of insane to think about, to be honest, but they were able to defeat Vanderbilt 3-0, and they are, let's see, where are they on the road to? I had this pulled up. Oh, man. And that's follow up on that one. But if you are around, I believe they either had a game today or tomorrow, but they, if you're able to be around for any of the Razorback Soccer event in Fayetteville, get up there and see it. I know they had a record crowd again last time that they played. So it's exciting. I think I've seen it right now. They had a little over 2,200 fans there last time. So get out and see them, support all the stuff that's going on the Hill. We do have the red-white game coming up on Sunday. I know there's a lot of controversy going on around that with it not being able to be streamed because of a planned network outage. still kind of getting some of the back end info on that. I don't know if there's going to be a resolution to that at this point. I know that there just wasn't a whole lot of communication between what was actually put out in a release and then how all that went down. So potentially we could have a stream. Most likely, if you're going to want to see the red white game, you're going to actually have to be there. So about what we got going on.
Well, that's not fair.
Yeah, it's not fair for the folks that live out of state and can't get to Fayetteville this weekend.
Hey,
it was
it might be one of
Kentucky.
the last things I make it to.
If it was Kentucky, there'd be a stream.
There'd be a stream. Pinto,
if it was
DNR,
Florida,
somebody
there'd be a
would stream that game. I promise
If it
you.
was Bruce Pearl, there'd be a stream.
Well, I
That's
think
a
I
fact.
think the thing that's irritating is the fact that there's no other alternative, right? Like the university said they don't have the infrastructure for it. We've had this happen a whole host of times, and then they are militant about nobody else being able to step in and even, you know, still part of that gap by some kind of a stream. And that to me is that stuff gets old. Like, you know, we're a very, very high profile athletic department. Figure your shit out.
Facts.
Agreed.
I real quick want to give a shout out to our sponsor before we move on to BYU. Mid Delta Land Management out of Lake Village, Arkansas, serves the entire state of Arkansas with specific land management strategies targeted to get the best value out of your property and increase your annual income returns and produce premium land appreciation. Call our partners at Mid Delta Land Management today at 870-737-2217 to schedule an appointment. All right, so we're digging into what's going on this weekend. Arkansas is headed out to Provo, Utah, 2:30 Central Standard Time kick, ESPN. The line flipped Monday. Arkansas was that was weird. I don't know if everybody hear that, or is it just me? BYU was favored by 3.5 overnight, and I'm assuming only as I can think is people must be laying heavy money on the Hogs. It changed to Arkansas -1.5 over and under 63. You know, first thing I looked at this week doing prep for the show was the depth chart. Malik Hornsby's moved into the second spot. They say he's locked it down. Second spot as far as second string quarterback. Expect KJ Jefferson to start Saturday. No surprises there. Defense, the one thing I was looking at that just, you know, concerns me. You got Brini, you got Blair at safety, you got Chavis and McLaughlin starting at corner. Miles Slusher. Has anybody besides, I mean, I haven't heard, has Slusher been at practice this week? I've been digging around on the internet looking, haven't heard he's been at practice Monday or Tuesday. If he doesn't practice Wednesday, he probably ain't playing Saturday. So, you know, that to me, that's probably, you know, because Jaden Johnson's, there's a question whether he's going to be able to go. There's a question between if Corey Johnson's going to be able to go, and then of course Slusher. That leaves us a hole at nickel. You know, they'll probably move Brini over to nickel and then drop Hudson Clark into safety. I worry about Hudson playing safety and against a team that can throw just because of his tackling issues. He's great in zone coverage, but his tackling one-on-one is something that just bothers me. You know, Saturday's game in Provo marks the first time the Razorbacks and the Cougars have ever played. Arkansas is on a 3-game slide. BYU's 2-2 in their last 4. All predictors are showing the Hogs are going to struggle with BYU's passing game if they can't get rushes to the quarterback. You know, Saturday we didn't have any pressures. We didn't have any sacks Saturday. First game all year. That was something I was a little like. I kept saying, go after the quarterback, and they just wouldn't do it. I mean, they just wouldn't get after it. Kalani Sitake, I'm probably saying his name wrong, head coach at BYU. He's a BYU grad, played fullback under Lavelle Edwards, 94, 97 to 2000. His record at BYU is 52-31. He's took BYU to 4 consecutive bowl games since 2018, and he's coming off multiple 10-win seasons as head coach at BYU. Offensively, BYU runs a power spread. They're averaging around 32 points a game, 418 yards, 264 through the air, 154 on the ground. They're 19-25 in the red zone this season. Defensively, they're very multiple. They'll play in a 4-2. They'll play in a 3-4 some. They'll even drop into a 3-3, I think a 3-3, 3-3, was it 3-3-7 or something anyways.
They better not.
Yeah, they better not. You're right, Jim. They
Maybe
better
they'll let
not.
them do that. I wish Arkansas could.
Yeah, they're allowing 362 yards a game, 190 yards passing, 172 on the ground. They're 42% getting off the field on third down. They're 92nd in the country in red zone defense. So you've got a team in
We might actually
Arkansas who
score.
is not
Yeah.
great in the red zone.
Yeah.
You got another team, BYU, that's not great in stopping people in the red zone. Something's got to give somewhere Saturday. Couple guys to watch for this week. Jaron Hall, obviously the quarterback. He's what makes BYU's offense go. 6'1", 205, 53% of his attempts last week against Notre Dame. 120 yards, 2 TDs. On the season, he's 129 and 188. His completion percentage is almost 70%. 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Christopher Brooks, running back for BYU, is the leading running back. Run the ball 63 times for 384, averaging 6 yards a carry. Scored 5 TDs on the ground. He's also added 7 catches for 46. He had 14 carries for 90 yards and a TD last week. Do we see BYU do what Mississippi State did last weekend? That's the question. Watching BYU's offense, because the power spread it's different than what Leach runs, but they still like to spread things out and kind of toss the ball in the middle of the field. So do we see them try to do the same things to us offensively that Mississippi State was able to do last week?
I think it depends on if we drop 8.
I don't think they have the same kind of ability that Mississippi State does right now.
They would just run the ball if we did that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
will
we-
say this: they've
Definitely.
got a couple of legit receivers.
They do.
Keanu Hill, 6'1" or 6'4", 215. He's got 17 catches for 334. Leads the team in yardage, leads them in yards per catch at 19.5. He's got 4 TDs and his longest reception, 68 yards. And then the other one, the guy that really popped off at the Notre Dame game that I was really watching, little slot receiver, 00, Cody Epps, 5'11", 185.
Yeah.
He got targeted 4 times, had 4 catches for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's 25 receptions for 298 on the season with 5 TDs. Between the Epps kid and the Hill, I mean, they're kind of what makes the outside part of BYU's offense go. I know those guys have not been on the field. I think last week was the first time they had them both back at the same time. Previously, one of the 2 of them has been in and out with injuries. Defensively, they got 2 really solid linebackers. Number 2, Ben Bywater, and number 31, Max Tooley. Bywater leads the Cougars in tackles with 46. Tooley is 3 interceptions on the season. And then John Nelson, 6'4", 275-pound defensive ends. They've only got 2 sacks. I don't really see BYU being able to get to KJ Saturday. I just don't see it. Looking at the size of their defensive line versus our offensive line and the grading system, and I use, and Jim, a lot of folks hate this, I use PFF a lot.
Mhm.
I like it because I can see the stats and I can also see the grading system. But you put them on paper, Arkansas's offensive line versus BYU's defensive line, it looks like we should be able to establish the run early and push them around a little bit.
We should, especially
Did you
with
mention
KJ
go
playing.
ahead.
I'm sorry.
Did you mention Caden Halls?
I'm fixing to. I'm gonna
Okay,
give a
I thought
shout
you
out
skipped
to you.
over him. I thought you were.
No, I didn't. I did not. I did it on purpose. I did it last on purpose. There is one, and I went digging through the coaches, the equipment staff. I was trying to find somebody connected to the state of Arkansas, so some folks had somebody to look for. Coach this kid, number 95, Caden Haas, 6'2", 325 pounds, formerly of Pulaski Academy. He's the only Arkansas connection on this football team. Coach,
How
tell
did he end
us
up there? What's the
He's
story on him?
His family, he comes from a family of devout Mormons. His dad, mom, devout Mormons, best people on the planet. People can say what they want to about Mormons. I'm gonna tell you this. My gosh, they are nice human beings. I mean, like nice to everybody, human beings. His dad was actually spent some time in the NFL, got drafted late rounds by the Redskins, I think. Dad's a big dude. Dad's like 6'7", about 285. Looks like he can play right now. Caden's a really smart kid. It says 6'2", 320. It's probably more like 6 foot or 5'11", 320. But his legs, he's got the biggest legs of any human being I've ever been around in my entire life. When he was a 10th grader in high school, he was squatting 600 pounds, parallel squat. I mean, he is a monster.
Jeez.
And he played center for me and won a few state championships and just absolutely annihilated people, but knew he wanted to go to Utah or BYU. That's where he wanted to go. Went out there. His mom actually went to BYU. His dad went to Utah. So there was a little family quarrel there because they hated, that's a rivalry there. And he ended up at BYU, and I'm pulling for him to have a great game, not to win, but I'm pulling for him to have a great game because he's just a great kid that works his tail off.
Well, and
Who's he going to be pushing up against this week?
He is usually playing nose guard if they're in a zero front, or he will play on the defense's right side, the offense's left side. So he'd go up against our left guard. Is that Wagner?
no,
Who is that?
No, I'd be
So,
Latham.
Big Latham, Brady
Latham,
Latham,
yeah,
Big
Latham,
Latham or
yeah.
Jones.
No, he won't scoot all the way out there, I don't think. But I hope he does go out to a 3 technique and end up against
That'd be
Luke.
interesting.
Because they went up against, they've spent a little time together. So I'd like to see that. That'd be kind of cool just to see 2 former players going at it.
Roger that, Coach. I mean, I'm looking forward to this game. I've had it circled. I was actually going to try to go to Provo this year and had some things happen. Kids got school. You know how that stuff works out. You don't get to make it. We're trying to get Jordan Smith. Jordan and Cole Smith are going to be our guest pickers this week. Jordan, if you can hear me, turn your camera on because we can't see you. Can't see you.
Okay, here we go. Can you hear us?
We can hear you. We
All
just
right,
can't
let me
see
get
you.
this video going. I think so. There we go.
There we go.
There you
There
go.
we go.
There we
Hey,
go.
buddy.
Guys,
How are you?
we want to welcome
Hey.
Jordan and Cole Smith. They're up in Northwest Arkansas. They're a big part of the fan base, and Cole's done a lot of really cool stuff the last year with the softball team, the ladies basketball team. Follows those girls, supports them week in, week out, and we try to find somebody on Twitter every week, somebody special that exhibits like the Razorback fandom, like it's just coming out of their pores every time they go to a ball game. I couldn't think of anybody better than my man Cole.
It's that guy right
you
there.
guys. Appreciate you guys getting on here. Real quick, we're going to run through the rundown of where the stats are at for Coach Kelly's pick'em. Right now, Coach Kelly's in first place at 31-9. Greg is 30-10 in second. I'm following up in third, 29-11. So me and Greg are sniffing right on the back of Coach's heels.
Don't be trying to
Blake-
take his second place spot.
Blake
Yeah, I got
is 26-14, and Danny actually moved into the over 500 this week. She's 22-18 on the season. So, big ups for Danny. She finally got over the hump, got into the winning side of the
You know what?
of the
I'm
deal
glad
here.
I was out last week. I didn't have to deal with this.
Yeah.
How does it feel to win?
Whatever.
I mean, how does
I'm
it
not-
feel, Danny? I mean, your baseball team's out of the playoffs.
Hey, no. If you want me to
Oh, wow.
cry on this
Whoa,
stream right now,
whoa.
I'll do it. I will cry.
All right, I'll leave the Cardinals alone. Shout out, Gus.
I'm sad about the Cardinals too.
Well,
Me
didn't the
too.
Braves
Well,
lose
hey,
today?
Hey, yeah, but the Astros won. That's all that matters to me. That's all I care about.
Oh, you
Ick.
would be an Astros
Ick.
fan. That's gross.
Boo.
So, first game, and this is the way it's going to go. I'm going to call out the game. I'm going to give you the line. I'm going to give you the over and under. We're going to start with Blake, go to Greg. I'm going to go to Mr. Jim. We'll go to Danny. I'll give my score, then Coach, then Jordan, okay? And I'll call your name out as we go through. I'm gonna write these down as we're going so I can keep up with who's picking what. All right,
I
first
think you'll
game.
probably
we're gonna
remember it by next week.
that's why I'm writing them in my book so I don't forget them this time. First game we got KU at OU. OU is a 7.5 point favorite, over and under 64. KU lost their quarterback, but Bean, I watched him last weekend against TCU. Kid's still pretty good, but they did lose their starting quarterback for the season. So don't know what's going to happen with KU going forward. KU's kind of been the darling of college football because they've been terrible the last 3 or 4 years. Coach Leipold's got him playing well. OU's coming off a major butt kicking down in Dallas. Blake, who you got? KU or OU?
I'm going to still go with KU. I mean, OU just looks, they look all sorts of,
They look
I don't
hot
know.
mess. Hot mess is the best way I know to describe it.
Bad.
Bad. Greg.
I'm also going to go with KU. I know both teams lost last week, but I feel like Kansas is going to come out stronger. I know it's in Norman, but I'm going to go Kansas.
Danny.
Since both of them said KU, I'm gonna go OU.
You can't base your picks on.
Well, you know what? Nobody told me the rules, so
God help her. Jim.
You know, OU's got to win this game. They just got to win. I think they're gonna. I don't know about the over. Am I just picking it straight up?
Just straight up. We're just picking straight up.
Oklahoma
Jim.
will
Sorry.
win, but I think they may win it by a field goal.
You know, I've looked at this game and I've looked at it, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I got to go with Jim. I think it's going to be OU, but I don't think it's going to be by 7.5. I think it's going to be more like 3. So I'm going Oklahoma this week. Coach.
AU perennial losers. They're looking for a reason to lose. They don't have their quarterback. They have no chance. OU by 21.
Good Lord.
Coach is coming with a venom tonight. My gosh. All right, Jordan.
Okay, so we combined our picks.
That's perfect.
We talked together. So OU doesn't lose 4 in a row. So we're going OU.
OU. Okay. All right.
I feel like they got
Respect.
embarrassed enough last week that like
It's
they're
going to light a fire.
yeah.
Yeah. If they
If it
lose,
don't,
Brent Venables
if it
doesn't make
don't,
out
they
the
may be
weekend.
some. Yeah, if it done, Brent Venable's car may get burned to the ground. I'm just saying, them folks in Norman were upset about losing to Texas last week.
Especially at OU, getting beat by Kansas. Yeah, his
Yes.
car's in trouble.
Oh, he's gone. Yeah.
He needs
Yeah.
he needs to rent like a Ferrari for the day and put his nameplate on the back of it and let him burn down the rental car.
That's right. That's right. All right, the game day is going to be in Knoxville. Bama at Tennessee, biggest game in Tennessee football, in my estimation, probably in the last 15, 20 years. Bama's favored at Knoxville by 7.5, over and under 65.5. Blake, who you got?
Listen. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go with Tennessee, even though I don't have the faith in it. But I don't know the story. I don't want them to win, but whatever. I think this is where Bama stumbles.
Greg.
Oh, Greg.
I'm gonna go. You hear me?
Nope, not a word.
Shoot.
Oh, now you gotcha. I can hear you now.
You hear me?
Come on with it.
Alabama. It's going to be a close game. Tennessee's going to fight for their lives, but Bama comes out with this.
Respect. Danny.
You know, I've got a lot of beef against Tennessee, just from basketball season and baseball season both. I can't stand them, but I am going to pick them to win this game. I want to see Bama lose. I think that if Tennessee loses, there will be mustard bottles on the field, but we'll see how it goes.
Wow. Big Jim.
I'm just not convinced about Alabama. I think Arkansas made them look great. Tennessee won't do that. Tennessee's going to win this game.
See, I want to say that. You know who's worse in coverage in Arkansas right now? Pass coverage? University of Tennessee. Do you know who's going to come back and play Saturday?
Yeah, but what shape is he in?
The stuff I'm going to be honest with you, the things I've heard out of Tuscaloosa, and I got a lot of friends down there. They're telling me he's really close to 90%. I think him at 90% is still better than Hendon Hooker at 100% throwing the football. And Hendon Hooker's a talented quarterback, no doubt. Kid can play. But I think Bryce Young's just too much. I got Bama in this game. It's going to be close. I'm thinking
against neck anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Saban's got this game circled. I promise you he does. As good as Tennessee's been all year, Tennessee's running their mouths a lot. Their fan base is running their mouths. I think it's time to humble the Orange. Plus, in my soul, I can't pick Tennessee to win Jack. Sorry, I'm not going to do it. Coach.
I'm gonna go deep south on this one. There's two kind of tenders in this world, not chicken. Contenders
dating
and
app?
pretenders. Contenders and pretenders. Tennessee are pretenders. Alabama is the consummate contender. Alabama by 14.
Wow.
Bryce
Oh,
Young,
Jordan.
Bryce Young for 500. 500 yards.
It's very possible. Very possible.
I
Go
feel like
ahead,
upset coming, so I'm going with Tennessee.
UT? Come on, Jordan.
Uh-oh.
Cole, come
Uh-oh.
on, man.
I don't like either one of them, but I
If
think
one had to lose, win it's going to be Tennessee.
okay, Tennessee it is.
Okay.
All right.
See.
Third game of coaches pick 'em. Oklahoma State at TCU. TCU's coming off a pretty good game last week at Kansas. TCU's favored by 3.5. Sonny Dykes has got the offense rolling down there in Fort Worth. Over and under is 68. Go ahead, Blake.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Oklahoma State. I think I'm a man on 40s. Do one.
You think the Flying Mullets are going to win it, huh? Okay. Greg.
I'm gonna go with Texas Christian University again for the second straight week.
Yeah. All right. Danny.
I don't like any teams out of Oklahoma, so I'm gonna go with TCU.
Yeah, but you picked Oklahoma. You gonna say you don't like teams out of Oklahoma? What is this?
Well, I don't like them. I picked them because they picked KU.
That's
Come on.
a hell of a strategy.
I think Oklahoma State is. I love TCU and I love how they're playing this year, but there's something special about what Oklahoma State's been able to do late in games, and I think they can go into Fort Worth and pull it out.
I'm with you, Jim. I think Oklahoma State's going to be too much. Their defense is really, really good. Coach, go ahead.
If I was an Oklahoma State Cowboy and I saw a horned frog, I would stomp on it and make his guts go everywhere. So I'm going Oklahoma State.
This is my favorite part of the show. Never know what's going to come out of his mouth. Go ahead, Cole.
Okay, we said we couldn't pick, so we just thought Horned Frog sounded fun, so we're going TCU.
It's all right. It's all right.
The colors are better.
Yeah, their colors. See, purple's just not my color wheel. I look like Grimace when I put on purple.
That's true.
Mississippi State at Kentucky. Kentucky's coming off this disgusting loss to South Carolina last weekend. Don't think Will Levis is playing again this week. Mississippi State's favored by 7. I think it's going to be more than that. Over and under is 47.5. Blake, who you got?
Mississippi State. I don't like it, but I thought Mississippi State was probably going to finish second in the West this entire season. So,
Greg.
Mississippi State by at least 17.
Danny.
As much as I hate it, Mississippi State.
Jim.
Yeah, I wish we knew about this quarterback situation too, just like Bama. I'd be more apt to pick Bama if I knew Bryce Young was 100%. And in this game, if they had Levis, but I don't think they can keep up with Mississippi State without him. But this will be 3 straight losses for Kentucky. That I don't know.
Here's where I'm at. No Will Levis. Rodriguez is still not running the ball like he ran it last year. Kentucky's defense is not what it was last year. They really haven't played the hardest part of their schedule yet. I mean, going to Gainesville winning, that's huge for Kentucky as a program because of what's happened to them in North Central Florida in the past. But man, I think Mississippi State's going to be too much unless something just weird happens. I think Mississippi State wins this game. The lines, I think it's 7. I'm thinking it's probably more like 17. Coach, go ahead.
Kentucky got lucky in a bad call game against Florida to win that one. I wouldn't even know who they were right now. They're a basketball school. They suck without that quarterback. They got no Mike Leach, and I'm not saying Arkansas screwed up hiring Sam Pittman. Great guy, great coach, doing a great job. Had a chance to hire Mike Leach. That's why he's going to beat Arkansas from now on. And I think he rolls into Kentucky, and I think he beats them. Let's see. I'm gonna say 17. He beats them 17. Takes it
That's
easy.
kind of what I'm thinking, 17 points. Cole,
Mississippi State.
Easy enough.
that's easy peasy.
Wow.
LSU at Florida. This is the infamous shoe game. Last time they played in Baton Rouge or in Gainesville, we had fog. The whole Shoegate incident with the player throwing the shoe cost Florida the game. I mean, it's just all these things. Florida's only favored by 3. This game's always back and forth. It's always a tough game. It's usually low scoring, over and under 48. Blake, who you got?
In the same way that you can't pick Tennessee for anything, I hope LSU just somehow falls into the Gulf of Mexico.
Fair.
Florida.
Greg.
LSU, as much as that pains me to say.
Danny.
I'm picking Florida.
Jim.
Gators, but it's a weird game every year. Just like you said, Arkansas and Mississippi State. These guys don't play this, the Gators can win in Baton Rouge. Tigers can go into Gainesville and win when you don't expect it. But I don't trust LSU's offense now. Gators.
See, I don't trust either one of their offenses, but the one thing I do trust, LSU's front seven is better than Florida's is right now.
Yeah.
Both quarterbacks can run. Both quarterbacks like to run. I think LSU's front seven's got more depth. I think they're better than Florida. It's the only reason I'm picking LSU. I do think it's going to be close. I don't think it'll be 3 points or less. It's going to be really, really tight. Coach.
Thought Florida be better at this point in the season with Napier going there. They got me once. They're not going to get me again. LSU got me last week. They owe me one. And 63% of the public's on Florida. They don't build those casinos out there for the public being right. LSU by 10.
That's right. That's a fact. Cole.
We're going Florida. We don't like that purple and gold.
That's a good reason to pick it. Only reason I pick it's because I'm fond of corn dogs and I like the smell. So, yeah, isn't it though? Arkansas at BYU. This whole reason we're here tonight. BYU was favored by 2.5. The line has flipped. Arkansas minus 1.5. Over and under in the game is 59.5. Blake, what do you got?
Hogs, baby. 35-31.
35-31. Yeah, Jim, make sure you
I
give
don't
me
know how
a
it's gonna
score
happen,
prediction. Greg.
I think the Hogs, we had a 3-game skid last year and we came out of that firing all cylinders. I don't think we're going to lose this game. I got Arkansas 30, BYU 24.
That's an interesting score. Danny.
One of the hot takes had the Hogs at 34-17. So I'm going to go with Jake on this one. I'm picking Arkansas with that score.
What was the score?
34-17.
Okay. Jim.
I see you shaking your head, Blake. Come on.
Man, this team's going to be
It's so advantageous to think our defense will hold anyone. I mean, I don't think we could hold like my cousin's 3rd grade Pee Wee squad to 17 points, honestly.
It's
That's the
like
hot
you
take.
don't. Which Arkansas team are we going to finally see? I mean, I don't know where mentally they are. Haven't known where they were mentally all year. There's something just not quite there, senior leadership or something. But I got to feel like they've got to want to win. Pride's got to kick in. KJ's back. 38-31 Razorbacks.
Hmm. You know, I looked at this game about 5 different ways I can look at it. I've looked at it Arkansas's front 5 against BYU's front 5 offensively to defensively and back and forth. The defensive issues scare the crap out of me in this game. Going on the road, across the country. Historically, Arkansas has not done well playing West Oklahoma City when we've had to go out west. You know, going to I was in Los Angeles when we played USC. That's a trip I wish I'd never went on. One of my worst trips to California in my entire life. I just think the defensive issues, the injuries we've got on offense and defense, Bumper Pool's not playing like I expected him to. And I think a lot of it's just because he's playing hurt. I got BYU in this game. A lot of folks are going to roast me over this. And I think BYU is going to win it somewhere around 42, Arkansas 24. I think it's going to be a big swing. And I just don't think the Hogs are going to be able to score enough points. I mean, looking at what our scoring offense has done, our struggles in the red zone, I just don't see them fixing it until they go into the bye week. I mean, that's just kind of where my head's at. I think we're going to lose a 4th game in a row. They're going to go into the bye week. We're going to go to Auburn and get back on track.
I hope you're wrong.
Hey, trust me, ain't nobody hopes for as wrong as I am. I'm just glad I'm not going to Provo to watch it. Because if I flew 2,000 miles to go watch that and that happened, I'd be pissed off. Coach, go ahead.
Can you enable screen sharing for a moment?
I sure can. If I can figure out how to do it.
Look on share screen down there, or maybe on your dots on the bottom right. See where, hover over the bottom black bar. Just hover your cursor right below your picture. Well, not right below, right at the edge of your screen on the bottom. And it should pop up share screen, participants, chat, record.
Thanks, Coach. You're making it like a game on YouTube. No, I don't see it where it says share screen anywhere.
Oh, well, never mind. I had a really good picture of an article where it says BYU to wear a new helmet versus, you find it?
Yeah, never mind.
Matt, have you ever had to work with PDF before?
Yes, but I've not
It still
done
says you've disabled it. Oh, wait, we got a winner. No more bets, please. We have a winner.
Did you get it to work?
Yep. Can y'all see my screen now?
Yep.
BYU to wear a new helmet versus Arkansas. See that little cougar right there in the middle and the pretty helmet?
Mm-hmm.
These guys are waiting to unveil these helmets against us. I think usually that works against the team. When you got to pop out new helmets to get a little juice in you, that doesn't work very well. I really think this is going to be a tight game. I think Arkansas is going to try to fight their way out of mediocrity at 3-3. I think BYU, though, man, they're off a tough loss against Notre Dame. I mean, you had the Irish and the Mormons in Sin City, and they fought their way to losing on both sides of that deal. They probably walked out of the casinos losers and the game. That's a tough one. I think I'm going to go 38-35. That's my score.
38-35.
Yeah, who?
That's my score.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, do I have to name a team?
I would prefer you did, yeah. Unless you just want to take a L.
BYU.
Oh.
You act sad that y'all act sad that I picked. I know I'm the leader of this deal. I've won all the game. I've won more games than the rest of you, and I've correctly picked the Hogs the last 5 games. But I can't. I just got to go with what I see right now. I think the Hogs are struggling a little bit. I think it helps tremendously that KJ's coming back, and I do think it could go either way. And I would like to pick a tie, but I don't think they'll let it end that way.
No, I'm with you, Coach. I just don't see it happen. Cole, this is the moment you've been waiting for, brother. You're the last one for the last game, last pick.
Okay.
Take us home.
Are you ready? All right.
All I gotta say is this: give me that hog hat.
Yeah.
You got a score?
34-31.
Ooh,
Ooh, close.
y'all
one.
liking these 3-point
Dang.
games, man.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, I just want to tell you, we appreciate you very much. Jim, thank you for being with us
Yeah.
tonight. Appreciate
Thanks
you
for
giving
having
up your time. Cole and Jordan, thank you guys for joining us. We're looking
Thank
forward
you.
to doing
Thank
some
you.
more stuff with y'all as softball season and basketball season starts rolling around. We want to try to get y'all involved with Big Pig Energy. To everybody else, appreciate you joining us again tonight on Big Pig Energy on Arkansas Sports Network. Check us out on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook as well. Arkansas Sports Network is doing things with high school sports, volleyball, football. We're doing all kinds of stuff. Catch us next week. We'll be back during the bye week. We're going to do kind of a mid-season review. It'll be a little more open forum, a little fun. Going to have a good time next week. Get ready for the